Hello everybody and welcome back to a new episode of Taking a Ride. And as you can see, I'm on the road again on a little road trip here in the Mississippi Delta region. I'm currently in a small town called Greenwood, Mississippi. It's a very gloomy and a little bit rainy day here in Greenwood. I'm just outside of Little Zion Baptist Church, which is where Robert Johnson was buried here. Apparently he had different graveyards for him, so it's kind of weird, but I'm gonna be learning a little bit more about him in this trip. But anyways, I'm gonna be visiting a few music related museums and sites during this trip, so I'm gonna be taking you along with me with the camera. And to be honest, I'm not an expert when it comes to the Delta blues music. That's why I'm here. I want to learn a little bit more about that type of music that was so influential in rock and roll music. And I'm gonna be showing you all these sites here in the Delta, in the Mississippi Delta. So stay tuned for more. All right, first stop is gonna be the Museum of the Mississippi Delta here in Greenwood. Fun fact, when I was driving from Robert Johnson's gravesite, which is just outside of town, into here to the museum, it's essentially just a farm field. There's not much around there between the graveyard or the church and here in the city. But on the road there was a little tiny building, kind of like, and it almost looked like an abandoned small building. And in the side it said radio station 960 AM. And I was curious about it to see if it was still playing because they had a big antenna and all that. So I immediately turned it on my radio here in my car, 960 AM, and indeed they were playing the Delta Blues. They're actually playing some B.B. King right now. Hopefully I won't get a copyright claim for that one. But I thought it was really cool to just be listening to some of the local radio stations here in Greenwood. But anyways, I'm right here just outside of the Mississippi Delta Museum. I'm about to go in. This is not supposed to be just a museum of the music from the Delta. It's gonna be more of a combination of archaeological things, history, as well as music. So let's go ahead and check it out. Alright guys, so I just left the Museum of the Mississippi Delta, and I gotta say it was a really cool little museum to check out, especially if you're into history. So a little correction, this museum doesn't have any stuff about music. It's more about Native American history, all the way to history through the Civil War. But it was still really cool to learn a lot about the history of this region. And by the way, I'm getting some gas right now to get into before getting into my next stop. But anyways, I do recommend, in case you're in the area, to check out this Museum of the Mississippi Delta here in Greenwood. The highlight to me was seeing this fossilized ruins of an old mastodon, which I forgot the years there where it's from, but I'll put it here in the description. It was a huge remains or fossilized remains of this mastodon. I didn't know there was a difference between a mammoth and a mastodon. Apparently mastodons were a lot bigger, but what they had here in Mississippi, or at least in the south of the US, they had American mastodons. So it was really cool to see that, especially the teeth. The teeth were almost intact, and I'll show you a clip here in the video so you can check them out. But anyways, like I said before, I'm getting some gas. I'm gonna head out to Indianola to check out the B.B. King Museum next. Let's go ahead and check it out. Right folks, we made it to the B.B. King Museum and Delta Interpretive Center in Indianola, Mississippi. Let's check it out.
This is it. Okay. Oh, sweet home. I was born right here in this field where I'm sitting talking to you. To be here where somebody can truly say, B, this is where you were born. This is where the world first knew about you, right here. Here's a high for me because I feel very good. I do miss my mom, I miss my dad, but I can tell you this, I'm so glad to be here.
On Saturday night,
That he told me. Be a musician. Be a blues singer. The company was Leland Record Company, and they
entertainment into the prisons was not something that was done then. So this was another uncharted territory that B.B. King ventured into.
Alright folks, so I just finished visiting the B.B. King Museum here in Indianola, and I'm gonna take a quick break before getting into my next spot, and I'm gonna sit here next to my friend BB. And but yeah, the museum was fantastic. It's one of the best music museums that I've ever been to. It essentially goes through the entire story of BB King, his entire life, from growing up here in the deep south in a very poor part of the country, and end up becoming a major superstar in the world of the blues. And it is also the story of the blues in general, how it originated here in the deep south, and essentially becoming such a popular style of music and very influential style of music as well. And essentially how the blues is the music of overcoming adversity, especially since it started, or it went through, you know, the Jim Crow era here in the Deep South, and also going through the civil rights movement as well. So it was a very interesting story, and very well done here at the B.B. King Museum in Indianola. The highlight for me was seeing how much B.B. King toured during his lifetime. He was essentially touring the entire time that he was out there playing music. He played in so many different countries, in so many different cities. And fun fact, I got to see BB live back in 2009 when I was going to grad school in Virginia. He played at the Student Union, and yeah, of course I went to see him. I got tickets, and he was great. And you know, he was a little bit older by that time, but he could still sing and play the blues as he ever could. So yeah, great museum. I highly recommend it in case you're in the area, and if you're a fan of BB as well. Again, this is the BB King Museum and Delta Interpretive Center in Indianola, Mississippi. Alright, so the next stop in the tour is going to be the Grammy Museum here in Cleveland, Mississippi. Here I'm just outside of the museum right now. A place that I didn't know it existed until today when I was planning this trip. And I don't know if you can see there further in the right of the building, there is a Taylor Swift ad or a poster. So it looks like there's going to be like a Taylor Swift exhibit inside the museum. So I wonder if I'll see a lot of Swifties in here. I guess we'll find out. Anyways, let's go ahead and check it out.
Moving the people. Artists like the Godfather of the Soul himself, the incredible Mr. James Brown.
Alright, so I just finished touring the Grammy Museum here in Cleveland, Mississippi, and I gotta say, I did not like this museum very much. First of all, I was thinking why they would have a museum for the Grammys here in the Mississippi Delta. And I guess it does make sense because Mississippi is a big music state, and apparently Mississippi is one of the states that has the most Grammy awards out of all the 50 states. So I guess it does make sense to have a museum like this here. But there were a few things that I didn't like about this museum. First of all, it was a little expensive. It was like $16 to get into the museum, and it's not as big as you would think it would be. They were having a private event when I walked in, and the museum was still open. I guess it's fine if they have a private event. But to get into the exhibits, you had to essentially pass through the front of the stage. So there were people presenting there about something, and they were doing like a conference on health or something. And you will walk essentially through the front of the stage to get in, and everybody will look at you. It's like, who's this guy? I just thought that was really awkward. But anyways, the museum itself was okay. You know, it's mainly focused on, as you would expect, the more popular artists. So there's a lot of stuff on Taylor Swift and Madonna and Bruce Springsteen and Michael Jackson. But I thought it was a little bit misleading, because at the very entrance, when you get into the exhibit, there's a sign that says the Grammys were created to not be, or I guess the awards are not to be given to the artist that sells the most records. They're supposed to be to the people, the artists that make the best music, and that's it. However, the exhibits were all about the very popular artists, and there were no focus on smaller or indie artists or musicians, which I thought it was kind of strange. Then there was the interactive part of the museum, which at the beginning it seems kind of cool. You know, they had a couple of areas where they had some instruments and like a recording studio, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be kind of cool. And then I walked in, there was, for example, a studio where you could record a song singing with an artist called Keb Mo, I think. And I thought it was going to be really cool. And I can't sing to save my life, but since I was there by myself, I decided to give it a shot. So I went in and I sang the song. You can compose the song however you want through the screen. And then you were supposed to hear how you sounded with his guitar playing. And it didn't work. The microphones were just producing all static, and it just gave you this horrible sound through the headphones. There was another section where they had like a stage full of instruments. They had like a guitar, and then they had like electronic drums, and they had the keyboards and all these things. And it looked like a place where you could actually go ahead and play the guitar. And I am not a guitar player, but I do know a few chords. So I said, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. And I went into the guitar, and it had no strings. So you couldn't play the guitar at all. I went to the keyboard and I tried pressing some keys, and it wouldn't do anything. It's like it was just there for show, I guess. I don't know how those things were supposed to work, or how the exhibit was supposed to work. But anyways, I thought it would have something cool out of the interactive part of the exhibits, but it didn't work out. They did have an exhibit fully focused on Taylor Swift. So if you're a Swiftie, you would probably enjoy it. They had all the outfits that she wore during the Eras tour. And they also had like a little movie theater where you can watch some of the music videos that were directed by Taylor Swift. So I guess if you're a Swiftie, I guess that would be a really cool thing to see. I guess the coolest part of the museum was a section or an area where you could hear music played through speakers. And different types of sounds. So if you were listening to it using an old turntable, and going all the way to 5.1 surround sound. And so they also included like a cassette and vinyl records and a gramophone and a CD and things like that. And you could really hear the difference. Those speakers worked really well. And they had you could test it out by playing some live recordings or live music from Beyonce. And I think there was also one from Dave Matthews, and I can't remember the other artists. But I guess that section was kind of cool because you could really see or hear the progression of the technology of recorded music from gramophone all the way to 5.1 surround sound. So yeah, that's my experience here in the Grammy Museum in Mississippi. I probably won't be coming here back. I think one visit is enough. But anyways, let's go ahead and check out the next stop. Alright guys, so the next stop is going to be the Delta Blues Museum in Clarksdale, Mississippi. I'm just outside of the museum right now. And I don't know much about this museum except that it's supposed to be more comprehensive about the history of the Delta Blues compared to the one that I visited earlier that was mainly dedicated to B.B. King. So yeah, really curious about this one. Let's go ahead and check it out. Right folks, so I just finished visiting the Delta Blues Museum here in Clarksdale. And I won't be able to show you any video or photos from the inside of the museum because they were very clear that it was not allowed. But I'll put a link here in the description so you can check out some information about this museum in their website. But anyways, this museum was amazing, especially if you are a Delta blues fan. Of course, they tell the whole story on how the blues were born here in Mississippi and in the South. They tell the story of the people playing the blues back in the plantations back in the day. And then they go and tell the story, each individual story of a lot of the Delta blues artists from this region. So I was surprised to see how many Delta blues artists came, or famous Delta blues artists came from here in Mississippi. For example, Sam Cooke is one of my favorite singers, and I didn't know that he was from here in this very small town of Clarksdale. And then they go through, they have a really cool exhibit on Muddy Waters as well, which was the highlight for me to see, because they have an actual full-size car, like a classic car, which has kind of like a recording equipment in the trunk of the car. So the trunk is open and you can see all the gear and all the electronics that they used back in, like, I think it was in the 50s, when this car would drive around the South looking for blues artists. And they eventually found Muddy Waters here in Mississippi. He was working as a tractor driver in a plantation. And they recorded the first, or they did the first recording of Muddy Waters back in the day. And eventually he got some of the records back, and he would hear himself singing, and he immediately quit his job as a tractor driver, and he went on to be a professional blues musician from then. And then they have a lot of stuff, a lot of items, and a lot of stories from, of course, the major artists like John Lee Hooker and B.B. King, and so many great artists that came from here. But yeah, I highly recommend this one. Like I said before, I am not an expert when it comes to blues, but I feel like I learned a lot, and I definitely need to listen to a lot of these artists here. Alright, so all these Delta blues locations and museums are really cool and fun and all, but there is one place here in the Mississippi Delta that is way more iconic and way more important than any of those places. And that is the Birthplace of Kermit the Frog Museum here in Leland, Mississippi. Let's check it out. Alright, so I thought it would be appropriate to end this tour at the birthplace of rock and roll. Just like they say, if the blues had a baby, the baby's name would be rock and roll. Anyways, I'm here at Tupelo, Mississippi, birthplace of the one and only, the king, Elvis Presley. And this is Elvis Presley's park here in Tupelo, and just across the street over there is the Elvis Presley Museum, Elvis Presley Birthplace Museum here in Tupelo. It's already too late, so I won't be able to show you the museum inside, but I have been to that museum before, and it is a really nice museum, especially if you're an Elvis fan. But anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for today. I'm gonna go on a little walk here onto this park. It looks like it's gonna have a few statues and some information on Elvis's life. It's a pretty decent park. I don't remember coming to this park the last time I was here, so it might be new, I don't know. But anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for this tour and this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you have been to this part of the country before, to this part of the US. Have you visited to any of the places that I've shown you in this video? Did I miss something? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the Mississippi Delta. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.